podcast of Chrysalis, the family adventure, S. We're back in court again, in two different places. Josh receives his sentence in Santa Ana while Kamala and her mother argue Kamala's and Samantha's case before a jury in Los Angeles in the case against the assaulting police officer. By the end, it sounds like a legal procedure of a totally different nature, a wedding vow. Huh? That's where you'll have to take a listen and ask yourself, did she really say that? Asterisk 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 Chrysalis, the family adventure, S episode 84, and the verdict is unknown but looks good fade in int. Courtroom, Santa Ana, day a judge bangs a gavel. Judge, this court will come to order. Bailiff, what do we have on the calendar today? Bailiff, People versus Stivic, People versus Tanjero. Solomon versus Palomenico, Panzer versus Brooke. That's it for today. Judge, alright, call them in order. Int. LA Courthouse, Courtroom 802 Day Bailiff Court 802 is now in session. The People vs. LA Police Officer Justin Braddock, Day 3. All rise. Int. Courtroom, Santa Ana, Day Bailiff calling the People of Orange County versus Joshua Stivic. Judge, what are the charges, Counselor? Attorney, Joshua Peterson, stepping up to the bench. Your Honor, we have a few. First, the primary charge is unauthorized access as a juvenile to the Santa Ana High School computer system for the purpose of obtaining protected information. The phone number and address of another student in violation of 18 U.S.C. Section 1030 of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act on September 17, 2021. The plaintiff was held captive at home arrest. Twice, he escaped, the first time as a juvenile, on November 5, 2021. The second more recently, 7 weeks ago, on March 26, 2026, as an adult. Hence, these additional charges are juvenile escape from mandated captivity and adult escape from mandated captivity. Judge, thank you. Is there anything else you would like to state? Attorney, Joshua Peterson, only that these charges make clear a pattern of repeated crimes, thus indicating that while the defendant has attained adulthood, his penchant for criminal activity has not changed. Twice proving that the leniency of home arrest was not effective in deterring his behavior. Judge Mr. Wilinski, would you like to make a brief statement? Wilinski, rising and coming before the judge, thank you, Your Honor. As Mr. Peterson has pointed out, the majority of these crimes, including the more serious one of hacking into the Santa Ana High School website, were committed as a juvenile. Clearly, Mr. Stivic is a gifted young man, with an unusual ability to commit crimes even as a juvenile that would take a high degree of intelligence to commit. What is also clear is that, locked up away from even a cell phone, he still managed to climb out of his second-story window. That he is resourceful and thus potentially of great use to our community and society is beyond question. But that this punishment obviously failed to deter him is also clear. It is therefore my recommendation, given these realities, that Mr. Stivic be consigned to a rehabilitation program where he can be moved to not want to break the law and harm others rather than simply more of the same locking up that hasn't worked until now. There is a long history proving that such programs have actually changed people dramatically. In addition, it should be pointed out that the damage done by the combination of all three crimes has harmed nobody dramatically, if at all, except for Mr. Stivic himself. Thank you, Your Honor. Judge, is your client therefore pleading guilty to a lesser charge? Wilinski, yes, Your Honor. Judge, and what lesser charge is that? Walensky the charge of hacking into the school website with only partial knowledge of the import of what he was doing. Judge Mr. Walensky, this is a very serious situation of a 16 or even 15-year-old juvenile breaching a prohibited system containing sensitive information. It's one thing for a 6-year-old to accidentally stumble upon a website with sensitive private information. It's quite another thing for a 16-year-old to successfully penetrate a website and claim innocence, Mr. Walensky. I'll scrap the escape charges, but the hacking charge remains as it stands. Mr. Peterson, was there any damage resultant from this crime? Peterson, prosecuting attorney, fortunately. It was caught in time as the school had already built a tracking system based on previous attempts to breach their site so that Mr. Stivic was caught before he had a chance to cause any harm to anyone. But it is clear, especially from the later crimes you are expunging, that ill intent was there and that. Were it not for this cyber-secure firewall, Mr. Stivic would most definitely have caused some serious damage. Judge, banging gavel, the sentence is 5 years in federal prison with parole. Case dismissed. Bangs again. Josh looks really scared and disappointed. Giselle, who is sitting next to him, looks really upset. Walensky comes over to them. Walensky, that's great you got parole. Now we have to go before a parole board to decide the terms. We may be able to get you out of here before. Judge, banging gavel, order please. Let's move to the next case. Int. LA Courthouse. Courtroom 802 day. Kamala, her mother and Samantha are sitting in the gallery in that precise order, with Kamala's mom in between the two girls. Watkins, I'd like to call Kamala Jackson to the stand. Bailiff Ms. Kamala Jackson, please rise and come to the stand. Samantha is looking at her with a serious expression as she gets up and goes to the stand. Bailiff Ms. Jackson, please raise your right hand. Kamala does so. Bailiff, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Kamala, I do. Bailiff, you may sit down. She does so. Mr. Watkins approaches her. Judge Carmichael, let's keep this to the time spent in the room from the moment of entry to the moment of release. Kamala, yes, Your Honor. Watkins, Ms. Jackson, please describe the moment when you entered in the room. Kamala, sure. I was in the middle of a conversation. We were in the middle. Officer Braddock and I. In which he said he saw I'd been there before, which was absolutely not true. I was never in detention ever in my life, including after that detention. He said he'd seen me before after I told my partner to just do what he says. He and his partner had conducted a pat-down on us, which really freaked my partner out because she's never been through anything like this before, or a lot of things. Watkins, what do you mean by a lot of things? Kamala, never mind. That's really not relevant. She's just very naive and is unaware when she does things that provoke other people. Samantha looks a mixture of angry and really hurt. Kamala, and sometimes they can lead to very dangerous situations. Like when she was yelling at the cops when they came to protect us, ostensibly. And she got even angrier, saying they were interfering with our right to protest. You see, I'm sorry, Your Honor, I know you didn't want me going back to the protest, but I have to explain how we ended up in custody. We were at a Black Lives Matter protest after the murder of George Floyd. Some infiltrators up the street were throwing rocks at store windows and looting. The cops came in to protect us, but Samantha got really belligerent and yelled at them, saying they should have been taking on the looters. I grabbed her to pull her back before she got herself in bigger trouble. Officer Braddock heard her yelling and turned to deal with her. That was when I was pulling her back for safety, but of course he saw a black person pulling a white person into the crowd. Watkins, how do you know it was because of your respective skin colors? Kamala, you could ask him. He'll probably deny it. I understand if some white people on the jury might be offended by my putting it that way. Carmichael, Ms. Jackson. Thank you for your candid interpretation of what happened, but again, we just want facts here. He heard Samantha screaming, turned to see who she was and saw you pulling on her arm and then arrested you. Period. Move on from there. Kamala, that's when I had to explain to Samantha, who was freaking out, to just follow the officer's directions. That prompted him to say he saw I'd been there before, which I found very insulting, demeaning and racist. Totally in character for a man who would do something so violent and brutal as what he did eventually. He is already on record as having admitted that he said that at the hearing. In fact, Your Honor, you challenged him to be clear about what he actually meant when he claimed he'd seen me before. Samantha, this is how it happened. She told me to just do as he says. He said he could see she'd been through this before. Carmichael is banging the gavel. She keeps banging as Samantha goes on. Samantha, she denied ever being here or in any other police facility, and that's when he said he had seen her before. Those were his exact words. Carmichael, is what she's saying true, Miss Jackson? Kamala, my God, she's got a better memory than me. It happened exactly as she said it. Watkins, so if he testified, which? Carmichael, hang on a second, Luke. Young lady, I can't get mad at you for bringing some clarity into this very murky, confusing sets of testimony, but the time to have done that would have been when you were on the stand. Samantha, nobody asked me about that when I was on the stand, but it looks like every time she gets up there. We have to be subjected to whether or not he said he saw she'd been here or he actually saw her here before. The truth is he said both, which doesn't make any sense. If he actually saw her, he wouldn't say, I see you've been here before, especially after she told me to just do what he says. That shows he is not consistent and his word can't be taken seriously. There is a sudden profound quiet that hangs over the courtroom. Watkins, may I, Your Honor? Carmichael, yes, proceed, Counselor. Watkins, I believe we've found the smoking gun right here. If he obviously changed his story by changing, I see you've been here before, to, yeah, I remember seeing you before, following your statement, Miss Jackson, that, pardon me, your admonition to your partner to cooperate with the officer. He has clearly been caught in his lie based on that sequence of conversation, and thus he shows himself through this to be someone who is capable of lying when it suits him, especially obviously, his claim that his sodomizing of the girls never occurred. Ms. Jackson, what occurred after Officer Braddock contradicted himself at that point? Kamala, Samantha asked him what he was going to do with us. He said to be quiet and cooperate. Then he ordered us to strip naked. Actually, he said, pull down your pants. Watkins, and then you had an argument with him over that. Kamala, yes. I was adamant that a female officer needed to be present, and he took offense to me instructing him on protocol. Watkins, what exactly did he say? Kamala, he said it was standard procedure for an officer to strip search a captive. Watkins, a detainee, even though you've made it clear that you felt like you were being held captive. And standard procedure when a detainee is suspected of carrying drugs or contraband in their anal cavity is for an officer of the same gender to be present, and unless the detainee is resisting lawful orders, which this was not, for only an officer of the same gender to be present and conducting the search. Officer Braddock knows that protocol, so again he was lying. That's strike two. I understand from previous testimony that he just turned you both around facing the wall and then forcibly removed your pants before inserting 2 sticks inside your rectums both at the same time. Is all that correct? Kamala, yes. And it hurt. Watkins, what is also significant is that we have his third lie right here. If he was searching for evidence of illegal activity on your part, he would need to search each of you one at a time. Stern objection. This is first of all conjecture that he even conducted such a search in the absence of irrefutable proof, and second, if there was such a pressing need to get this out of the way, a search such as he has been charged with, without proof, would be able to be done effectively in half the time. Watkins not as effectively, and even were his action of searching both rectums simultaneously with 2 sticks, one each, of both teenage girls would be more effective in yielding or disproving evidentiary wrongdoing, which it isn't, as is the case in any form of multitasking involving the brain. Of which this is a definite example, it is statutory sexual abuse nonetheless. I just have one more question which I know the answer to, for the jury's sake. Do either of you, Ms. Jackson, have any criminal record? Kamala absolutely not. That's been stated over and over several times. Watkins thank you Ms. Jackson. I won't revisit the agony you described on your and your girlfriend's part, not knowing if this would ever end, before the sergeant entered the room and ordered Officer Braddock to stop. I have no further questions. Your and your partner's testimony speak for themselves. And I find far less inconsistency in your statements as well as your partner's than I do in Officer Braddock's. Carmichael thank you, Luke, but that will be for the jury to determine. Watkins I have no further questions. Your witness, Ms. Stern. Int. Santa Ana Court. Small room, Day Wilinski and Josh are there. Wilinski as I said to you before, everything now depends on your behavior. You have been given a sentence but with a chance to shorten it depending on the willingness you show to be serious about reforming. I understand that you totally surprised your folks by cleaning up your very messy room to the point that it was so clean they couldn't believe it. That shows that you can totally change when you set yourself to it. Josh also, my girlfriend wanted me to break my lockdown to go to the concert. I didn't want to break my lockdown. I just wanted her to love me. Wilinski I'm not a therapist but that is a good issue to deal with in parole. What would have happened if you stayed home that night? You'd be with your girl now. Josh not necessarily. She got banned from the house. It would have taken a lot of risk to sneak her in with my parents now aware of her coming and going. So the concert was like one last hurrah. WALINKSY was it worth it? Josh nah, I guess not. I was supposed to go to Stanford and I still could have done that but now that's blown. WALINKSY not necessarily. This is where your good behavior and willingness to turn yourself around could make a big difference. You may have to postpone your college years but it's still possible. Josh do you think they'll let me study in the cell? Wilinski probably only with monitoring until your term is up, even in parole, just like it was at your house when your grandfather was alive. Your parents were trying to find a replacement. You'll have to really show a readiness to follow all the rules. They won't leave you alone with a smart device until you show them over time with supervised sessions that you can be trusted. It may be that you'll be able to study all you want with a monitor present, and on a device that's monitored by the corrections department. So basically, it won't be much different than before except here, you can't mess up. There are no windows to climb out of. Josh and no Amanda. Wilinski yeah, that's something you're gonna have to say goodbye to. At least the nocturnal stuff. Int. LA Courthouse, Courtroom 802 Day Stern is questioning Kamala. Stern Ms. Jackson. Your partner presented a good clear narrative of what was said by you and Officer Braddock upon the entry of the 3 of you to the room in which you 3 were alone. And yet, as you admitted, you did not remember these words being said when you were asked what happened. In fact, even at the hearing 2 years ago, you stated that you wished your partner hadn't taken so long to recover so the alleged assault would be fresher in your memory. Ms. Jackson, how could an assault so extreme fade to the degree that it was not still fresh in your memory? Kamala, you have a crystal clear memory too. If I said that, which I can believe, I was definitely referring to the words that were said, the exact sequence, not the assault itself. Stern so, basically then, your words are therefore as unreliable as Officer Braddock's. Would you not say, since your memory is that unclear about what exactly happened? Kamala, no. My memory is crystal clear about what happened. What's unclear is the words. But the charge doesn't concern the words spoken, simply the action of raping us through that invasive rectal search. My memory has never dimmed about that. Stern, but it has regarding the exact words used, has it not? Kamala, I don't see what importance that has one way or the other in terms of proving or disproving the charge. Stern, the importance it has is that my client has just been accused of verbal confusion and that therefore infers that his claim that the assault never happened must be untrue. But did you not exhibit the same confusion at the hearing when you said the assault was not clear in your memory? Kamala, the assault has never been unclear in my memory. What I specifically said on that occasion was that my memory of the details surrounding the assault was less clear than right after it happened, but my memory of the assault itself will always be crystal clear. My body will always remember and feel the pain, the agony. Stern, Miss Jackson, your partner and Mr. Watkins are, using his words, trying to pin Officer Braddock's confusion about the exact words said as a smoking gun, proving his denial of your claim is also bogus. But what does your own confusion about what was said at the time of the alleged incident say about the reliability of your claim? Watkins' objection. Ms. Jackson's poor memory of the words said is not the same as Officer Braddock's inconsistencies in saying he could see that she had been through the system before based on a cautionary remark she had made to her partner and then saying afterward that he had actually seen her before. It's human to err, but there's something when, in a legal setting, which law enforcement is, an officer sworn to uphold the law says one thing and then follows it up with another completely different. Carmichael sustained. Kamala, then Samantha asked him where he was taking us and what he was going to do to us. Stern, thank you, Miss Jackson, but I haven't asked a question yet. Kamala, I'm sorry. I thought the jury's entitled to know what happened. Stern, that'll be all, Miss Jackson. Thank you for your testimony. Kamala returns to her seat. Watkins stands. Watkins, I'd like to call Ms. Verna Franklin to the stand. Bailiff, Ms. Verna Franklin, please rise and come to the witness stand. Verna Franklin, Kamala's mother, gets up and comes to the stand. Bailiff, please raise your right hand, Ms. Franklin. She does so. Bailiff, Ms. Verna Franklin, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth to the best of your ability? Verna, I do. Bailiff, thank you. You may have a seat. She does so. Watkins approaches. Watkins, it is my understanding, Miss Franklin, that you were at the demonstration along with your daughter, Kamala Jackson, and her friend, Samantha Stivic. Verna, I was. Watkins, where were you when the two girls were arrested? Verna, I was in the crowd attempting to stay with the girls, but there was so much commotion and police movement that we couldn't help losing each other while that was happening. As was already said, Samantha was confronting the police officers who were asking us to leave the area at the time things got violent and illegal up the street. She wasn't the only one. Many protesters were yelling at the officers as interfering with our right to protest. This was a protest challenging the overuse of police authority. Everything at that point happened so fast. My daughter was correct in saying that a bunch of thug rioters infiltrated our protest, but she was not one of those trying to challenge the police attempts to ask people to leave when things got chaotic and violent. All she wanted was to protect her girlfriend, who was very excited at that moment because she didn't understand that the presence of violent thugs at a peaceful protest, which this had been for most of the night, made it an extremely dangerous situation. Unfortunately, Samantha's yelling caught this officer's attention, and when he turned to see who was yelling, she wasn't the only one, but, as has been pointed out, her voice was loud and she was angry. So that naturally drew his attention. Kamala wanted to protect her, so she grabbed her arm to pull her out of possible danger, but clearly this officer misinterpreted it, as he admitted, and arrested her, who was one of the good ones who were trying to cooperate. This got Samantha even more upset because she was outraged that her girlfriend, my daughter, a good girl who stands up for justice but doesn't believe in creating trouble, was arrested. So the other officer arrested her and they took them in, and I saw nothing more of that until Kamala called me when they were released about 10 or 15 minutes. It seemed like an eternity later. I was so paralyzed with fear. I was really freaking out because I knew what was possible, and all of you members of the jury have seen what has happened to black people in custody, fortunately not the majority. Watkins, I know you were shaken up, Ms. Franklin. But did you notice anything different about either of the two girls when they were reunited with you that you hadn't noticed before up to when you saw them being taken in? Verna, honestly, I could not tell that what they claim was done to them was done to them, but they did look badly shaken up, like something was done to them. But I'd also like to say to you, the men and especially women of the jury, my daughter would never lie about something like that. I have always known her to be a person of great integrity and responsibility. And I personally find the suggestion that she would go so far as to lie and make up a charge as this extremely insulting and self-serving. Thank you. That's all I have to say. There is a reaction felt, heard and seen in the room to her strong words as she starts to get up and leave the stand. Carmichael, excuse me, Ms. Franklin. It would not be fair to not allow the accused's attorney a chance to question you. I know you've said everything you have to say, but we're required to give both sides in every case a chance to question every witness who testifies. Verna, sitting back down. Okay. But she won't get anything out of me that your prosecutor hasn't already gotten. Stern, having approached her, Ms. Franklin. I have just one question that I need to ask you to provide clear emphasis to the members of the jury, and that is, did you actually witness either of these two girls being raped or forcibly disrobed, undressed? Verna, were you not paying attention? I stated that clearly before. Were you off in another room or somewhere else when I said that? Stern, no. Thank you, Miss Franklin, that'll. Verna, and you apparently also missed my statement when I said my daughter would never make something up like that. Stern, that's okay. Fine, that'll be all. Verna, talking over her. I've lived with her for nearly 18 years, so if you want to be scientific, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you should believe the person who knows her the most. She has no criminal record. She has always been a law-abiding. Stern, interrupting her, that's okay, I'm satisfied with your testimony. Verna, no, I need to say this because it's important. You need to know the type of people you're dealing with. She is not only law-abiding, but she will go out of her way to protest and hold accountable those who are not law-abiding. That is what this protest, which was a nationwide protest, was all about. Making sure not only that we follow and uphold the law, but that especially those charged with upholding it themselves uphold the same law equally and abuse no one. There are small starts of clapping that immediately stop due to the inappropriateness of applause in a courtroom. Bailiff, you may step down, Ms. Franklin. Int. Jail visiting area. Day. Amanda is talking to a corrections officer. Amanda, oh. So where is he now? Corrections officer, he's in permanent holding now. It's a different facility at a different address. Let me give you the address and phone number. You might also want to give this information to that other lady who comes by here every NHGHT. Amanda just looks at him without saying anything. Int. Another jail visiting area. Day. Amanda is seated opposite Josh across a table in which the arrangement is similar to the other one. One where it would be hard to detect any difference except maybe where the doors are. Josh, thank you for coming. You're my first visitor, even before my mom. Amanda, I went to the other place. I had no idea they moved you. Josh, it's better. I get a cell to myself. I only have to line up with others for food and work assignments, which is a lot of my day. They're going to get me a monitor so I can study and keep my goal of getting into Stanford. So it's basically the same as with Grandpa, except now I don't have a tutor. I have to follow the curriculum on my own with just a monitor there to make sure I don't goof off. Which I really wasn't doing anyway. Amanda, so how long did they say you're gonna be in? Josh, the judge said 5 years with parole. That means I have to meet with a parole board which will decide how long I should serve my sentence behind bars. But I will still be monitored when I get out for the remainder of my term. It's gonna be very strict, Walensky says. Amanda, will I get to feel your sexy body ravishing mine? Josh, I hope so, but that's a whole 2 years you'll have to wait. You sure you want to do that? Amanda, are you kidding? Before, we had no idea how long it would be. At least now we have something to look forward to. Josh, they may not allow us to be together even on probation. I mean, parole. And even then, 2 years is an eternity. Amanda, Josh, I pledge myself to you for eternity. Please be mine forever. Fade out.
Wow.